Just last week, we saw videos from President Donald Trump saying that if Iranians don't behave, they'll go back to dropping bombs on their head.
Is the text of the agreement now final, or are you still...
No, it's not final. It's a memorandum of understanding. And if I don't like it, we'll go back to shooting at them, dropping bombs on their head.
When do you expect the word...
If I don't like it, if they don't behave, we'll go right back to...
While the war in the Middle East is threatening the global supply of fuel, Africa is benefiting from Nigeria's refinery. Countries are now looking to Nigeria for fuel. This is very great. Welcome to the Finance Podcast, where we bring you finance and economic updates of things that are happening in Africa and the world at large. Stick around to learn a thing or two from this channel. Let's dive right in. Normally, whenever a war erupts, a war that blocks the key route to where global fuel passes through, the market gets nervous. Oil traders fear supply distribution. Shipping becomes very expensive, and because of that, the impact spreads across the world. On the 19th of June 2026, the President of the United States has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Iranian government. Now, this memorandum of understanding is only meant for 60 days, meaning that after these 60 days, whatever happens next depends on whatever decision the US takes. In summary, according to ABC News, these are the key details of what the memorandum of understanding means. The first point here says an immediate and permanent end to fighting on all fronts, including Lebanon. The second point here says the Strait of Hormuz will be open toll-free for 60 days. The third point here says a US $30 billion, that's approximately $424 billion, reconstruction fund for Iran. This is funded by private equity from a number of countries. So this peace deal that was signed between US and Iran in the memorandum also says that Iran has to pause on trying to produce any nuclear weapon. That is, this 60 days of leverage that was given to ceasefire between US and Iran is just for them to come to an agreement. And then by the end of these 60 days, we'll be hearing what they finally decided. Even in the midst of all of this, there's just great news that Africa at least has a breathing space from the Dangote Refinery. Just imagine this. If you produce crude oil and then you cannot process it, this still makes you dependent on other countries, because if you do not export your crude oil, you cannot get fuel. Now, once the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, every dependent country remains scared. For decades, Africa has been dependent on foreign bodies for their fuel, diesel, aviation fuel, and every other thing that can be produced or processed from crude oil. Now, all of this was happening until Dangote decided to change the game. Dangote Refinery has become a symbol of change, with a refinery that can produce 650,000 barrels of crude oil per day. The Dangote Refinery is one of the largest refinery in Africa and also one of the largest single-chain refinery in the world. Now, during this crisis in the Middle East, Africa is now producing their fuel and processing it here in Africa, not having to wait for other countries to come and give us fuel. Just when we thought that the story of a refinery in Africa was going to end with Dangote, a Nigerian billionaire, Abdul Samad, came out and announced that he is going to be building a new refinery. This refinery is situated in Akwa Ibom, Nigeria. The proposed refinery is supposed to produce 200,000 barrels of crude oil per day. If this refinery is completed, it will add to the refining hub in Nigeria. This means more jobs, more opportunities, and definitely more fuel security. This is not just a win for Nigerians, it is a win for Africa. When Africa refines more of its own crude oil, the story of fuel scarcity is going to be a forgotten thing. When Africa has more refineries, industries can expand, foreign exchange pressure can be reduced, and the government will slow down on their imports of fuel into Africa. Now, this brings us to a very interesting part of this episode, because just a few months ago, the World Bank came out and said that Dangote was trying to monopolize Africa because he's the only man with a refinery. So now, Abdul Samad has come out saying that he wants to build a refinery. Now, let it be the locals that are competing, not us having to import fuel so that there can be competition in Nigeria. I'd like us to read the reason why they think that Dangote should not be the only person with a refinery that runs well in Africa. So, according to Energy News Africa Plus, it says, why the World Bank is pushing back. The issue is not whether the refinery works. It is what happens when one supplier controls the market. The World Bank's concern is structural. A single dominant supplier can set prices, limit alternatives, and create conditions that are difficult to reverse without regulatory intervention. The institution argues that import competition is the most practical check on that dynamic. Reinstating license would allow other operators to bring in fuel when domestic prices drift above import parity. Creating a ceiling on what any single supplier can charge. Without that mechanism, the market has no self-correcting pressure. Now, what I'm trying to say is that if Dangote alone owns a refinery in Africa, a working refinery, he can control the price. He can say, oh, I want to sell my fuel for 10,000 naira, and then because we don't have any other alternative, we have to buy it. Their reasons were structural and sensible, but then it should not come from them. Africa patronized their own refinery for decades, and then they did not come out and say, oh, America is monopolizing Nigeria, France is monopolizing Africa, or they didn't come out to say any of those. So why are they coming out now that Dangote now has a working refinery that which is on full potentials? Now that brings us back to the competition markets. Now everybody knows BUA Group and Dangote Group. Dangote Group is run by Aliko Dangote, while the BUA Group is run by Abdul Samad. Now these two men are strong business competitors in the African market. BUA owns cement, Dangote owns cement. BUA owns salt, sugar, Dangote does the same thing. The only thing Dangote has that he does not have is a working refinery. Even though Dangote's refinery triples his own refinery's production process, it is still a competition. I hope that the World Bank is now happy that another Nigerian has come out to say that he wants to build a refinery. Now, Africa is talking business.
Aliko Dangote just built an oil refinery.
It is the largest single line in the world. It's 650,000 barrels a day.
BUA Group is currently building an oil refinery in Akwa Ibom State.
Well, the choice of Akwa Ibom is easy because, we decided on Akwa Ibom because of the feedstock.
The level of competition among these two have gone confrontational. For example, there is always scarcity of sugar in Nigeria every Ramadan. This scarcity makes the prices of sugar to go up. According to reports, this sugar scarcity is an intentional thing. The producers of sugar are the ones creating the scarcity so that prices can go higher and they will make more money. The two major producers of sugar in Nigeria are Dangote Sugar Refinery and BUA Foods. According to BUA, they built a sugar refinery in Port Harcourt so that they can put an end to this seasonal sugar scarcity. And Dangote used every means possible to make sure that the refinery did not take off. These two companies are household names in the Nigerian food and
So away from them being serious business competitors, the head of BUA Group, Abdul Samad, came out to say that he traveled to South Africa sometime last year just because his visa got expired a day before the day he traveled. He was asked to go back to Nigeria. Meanwhile, he also stated that when he was there at the airport, he saw Europeans coming down and then they were all allowed to enter South Africa with a visa free. And then he's like, I come here to do business. My business is actually growing here. I employ your locals. What's going on? Why am I not also allowed? He came out on air and then he said it publicly. He said he wishes that Africa can just be visa free because we're all Africans. Why do we need visas to go to a fellow African country? I'd like us to watch the video.
About free trade movement of people in Africa. And again, I had a personal experience. Last year, February 2025, I was traveling to Cape Town for the mining endeavor in South Africa. And as we landed, and it was a red eye, so I left at night from Lagos to Cape Town. We arrived at 6 in the morning, and as we arrived, went to the immigration, attended my passport. The immigration officer looked at it, and he was like, "Why is your visa?" And I said, "My visa is there." Unknown to me, my visa had expired the day before. And what happened? Unfortunately, our crew did not check the visas to ensure that the visas were valid. We were there for 4 hours, but at the end of the day, I had to turn back. I was turned back to Lagos. But the issue is, while we were waiting, to see whether we'd be able to get access into the country without a visa, there were like 3 international flights from Europe. All the 3 flights were mostly Europeans. I was standing there by the immigration desk, and each and every passenger on those 3 flights went into Cape Town without any visa.
Now, for Africa to embrace what the future holds, we need togetherness. If other parts of Africa are trying to come together to grow, and then one country is standing out. This will only go a long way to break Africa further. So do well to like, do well to share, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Solid Finance Podcast, for more finance contents like this. Until next time, bye for now.